Today we are going to be talking about how to graph a quadratic function by hand. And actually we're just going to be doing the first part of it. Yesterday we graphed using technology. We used Desmos.com to do our graphing, and that was to help us learn what the key characteristics were. So quick review of that. When you type the equation into Desmos, it gives you a picture. You can click on the points and they will show the ordered pairs. The vertex is the lowest or highest point. For this example, it is the point 3, 1. And since it's at the top of the graph, we would say that that is a maximum point because there's no point higher. If this opens down, like a cup turned upside down, when the graph opens up, the lowest point is at the bottom, and therefore that would be a minimum point. Our y-intercept is the point where it crosses the y-axis. So in this case, it would be 0, -8. And our x-intercepts are the points where it is on the x-axis. Sometimes there's, in this case, there's 2, 0, and 4, 0. Sometimes there's only 1, and sometimes there's none. So having the picture of the graph is helpful to determine how many x-intercepts there are. Where is the axis of symmetry? The axis of symmetry is that line that is the mirror image line that's reflected and has symmetry on both sides of it. So it's the one that goes right down the middle. It's the line that goes right through the middle of the parabola. It's always a vertical line until you get to conic sections in Algebra 2. But for our purposes, it'll always be vertical. So it'll always be going through the x-axis. So the axis of symmetry will be x equals, and since it's going through the middle, and the vertex is also in the middle, it's always going to match the first number of the vertex. This is an xy pair. You're going through x, so the equation is x equals 3 for the axis of symmetry. So that's a quick review of the parts that we could see from the graph yesterday. So today we're going to talk about how we can graph a quadratic function without the use of technology. And your notes are similar to this. Standard form for a quadratic function, trying to get rid of that blue line there. They have, just like y equals mx plus b is a form for linear. There's different forms that quadratics can take. The standard form for a quadratic is y equals a goes in front of the x squared term. Remember, quadratics have an x squared term. Plus b goes in front of the x term, if there is one. And c is the number at the end that's the constant. So c will always be a number without an x. When we graph these equations, a quadratic equation creates a U-shaped curve, and that is called a parabola. And if you wanted to use Desmos to sketch the following graphs, I'm guessing our y-intercept's going to be somewhere around -5. And I know this opens up, so I'm going to guess that my sketch is going to look something like this. This one's negative, and I can see my y-intercept's going to be somewhere up here, so I'm going to guess it's going to look something like this. I'm just guessing. I did not use a graphing calculator. I just sketched it. You don't have to worry about that part of it. The point that they want you to get from this is that if the equation starts off, remember a is the first number in front of the x squared. This one's got a 1 in front of it. If this number is positive, it doesn't have to be a 1. It might be a 2 or a 3 or a 4 or 5 or whatever. But if it's a positive number, then the parabola is going to open up like a smile. And for the second equation, there's a -1 right here. This is our a. If a is negative, and it doesn't matter what number it is, but if it's a negative number, then the parabola is going to open down like a frown. Yes, down and frown rhyme. So knowing this is going to help us with our graphing, knowing which way it opens. The axis of symmetry is the line that goes down the middle. This is a vertical line going down the middle. Going down the middle of the parabola. It does have symmetry. There is a formula to help you find this line, and it uses the a and b from the equation. It's going to be the opposite of b divided by 2 times the number a. Now, since the vertex is the highest or lowest point, and it's also in the middle, since it's also in the middle, it's going to be on the axis of symmetry. When the vertex is the lowest point, it's called a minimum, short for minimum. When the vertex is the highest point, it's called a maximum, or max. And these two things are closely related because the vertex is always in the middle, axis of symmetry is always in the middle. So those x values, the x value of the vertex, is going to be the same as the axis of symmetry. So once we find the axis of symmetry, we're going to take that number and we're going to plug it in to the equation to find where the vertex goes. And that's all we're going to do today, is practice finding the axis of symmetry, and from that getting the vertex. That's all we're going to practice today. So we have our example first. It gives us an equation. It's in standard form. The first thing that I'd like you to do is label your A, B, and C. This is going to be a strategy that's going to help with a lot of quadratic stuff. Remember, there's a 1 in front of the x squared. So A is 1. B is a number in front of x. 8 is in front of x, so that's B. C is the number that's by itself, and it's 15. So to find the axis of symmetry, we're going to use negative opposite of B divide by 2a. I recommend that you think of this as opposite. That will help you because it's not always a negative. It is just the opposite sign of whatever B already is. Our B is a positive 8. So the opposite of positive 8 is negative 8. And our A is 1, so 2 times 1 is 2. So our axis of symmetry, or x, equals negative 8 divided by 2. Well, that's a nice fraction because negative 8 does divide by 2 evenly, and it gives us the number negative 4. So I know on my graph that my axis of symmetry goes through negative 4. That's my middle line. If that's my middle line, I know my vertex is on that line somewhere. I just don't know how high or low it goes. Well, one thing I do know that this opens up because A is positive. So I know I'm going to be picturing a line or a parabola opening up on there somewhere. So the axis of symmetry is negative 4. I got to find out where my vertex is. I know what the x value is. So now I'm going to plug negative 4 into the equation. And that will tell me where on the axis of symmetry my vertex goes. So y equals negative 1, parenthesis, negative 4. I'm sorry, that's not a negative 1. Back up. That's a positive 1. Parenthesis, negative 4 squared plus 8 times negative 4 plus 15. So what am I doing? I'm plugging negative 4 into the equation everywhere I see an x. Now you can use your calculator or you can use mental math to figure this out, but you should probably show your steps. If you're using a calculator, I strongly recommend you use the parentheses. When you square a negative, negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16. And positive 16 times 1 is 16. The next part of it is 8 times negative 4. That's negative 32. So I can either add a negative 32 or I can subtract 32. And then I'm going to add 15. So now I'm going to go across and do my adding from left to right. 16 plus negative 32 is negative 16 plus 15. So my y value of my vertex is negative 1. And now I know that my vertex is going to be negative 4 for the x because it matches the axis of symmetry. And it's going to be at negative 1 on the line right here. This is my vertex. I know that it opens up, so I'm just going to sketch. Just doing a sketch. I'm not finding anything else. This is just a sketch. Over here, you can just do something like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just need to know if you have the axis of symmetry written down and the vertex written down. The sketch is just a very generalized picture of what the parabola will look like. So your assignment is to finish the notes. In class, we will be doing some more examples together, and just be careful with the steps. Take your time and watch the video again if you need to. Thank you.